Welcome to Being Intrepid, where we share practical insights from leaders who are shaping the future of learning and work. I'm your host, Sam Herring. Over the past 2 decades, I've built companies to help people learn and organizations thrive. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Yulia Barnakova. Yulia is an AI innovation and learning advisor at Accenture, a training magazine columnist, and a six-time Microsoft MVP and a HeyGen ambassador. She works with leaders to explore how emerging technologies are reshaping work, learning, and performance. She's also a faculty member in Accenture's AI Academy for Business Leaders and a visible voice in the learning field through her writing, her speaking, and her experimentation with AI coaching, avatars, and the next wave of agentic systems. Yulia, welcome to Being Intrepid.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here and talk about the future learning, innovation, all good things. And have been a big fan of yours, Sam, for many years and watching you build all those companies. So it's an honor to be here.
Likewise, Yulia. We've known each other for several years, and it's been awesome to see you just emerge as this thought leader in the space of learning technology, AI, avatars. I just love watching what you're doing out there to advocate for the profession and really push us towards innovative technology adoption to solve a whole range of business challenges. So really excited for this conversation today. So. Yulia, for our listeners who are perhaps meeting you for the first time, unlike me, tell us a bit about your role at Accenture and the kinds of questions that you specifically help leaders think through.
Sure. So I have kind of a unique role at Accenture in the sense that I work across our AI implementation work. So on the AI and data side, so I help leaders kind of figure out what is their AI and agentic strategy overall, and then how do we actually implement some pilots, experiments, and actually make those scale across the organization. So that's kind of one piece of what I
Okay.
do, but I am super passionate about learning myself and kind of the learning experience, learning function overall. And so I always try to bring our learnings from our AI and data work into our AI Academy for business leaders and always trying to learn myself and share with others anything that I'm seeing overall. And also think about like how do we disrupt and reimagine learning, kind of how we
Yeah.
do learning overall with AI specifically. So just always, kind of hair on fire, brain on fire with all the things going on across our AI space and our learning space. So excited to kind of bring that all together into this discussion.
Yeah, and I love how you really do model your own learning publicly, and I think it's a theme that comes up continually on the podcast is uh, leaders demonstrating that learning publicly and that they're on their own paths for learning. So thank you for doing that. It's inspiring to a lot of people out there. So, one of the things that that is a buzz and has been for actually many years is this concept of learning in the flow of work. And, it's been discussed for many years, but AI is actually delivering on this, long sought promise for in the flow. Can you tell us a bit about what's changed? What's different now? How is AI actually delivering on that promise?
Yeah, that's a great question because when we do kind of these sessions on the future of learning and work and talent transformation, one of the really interesting trends that we're seeing in learning, especially, is this kind of reimagined learning in the flow of work definition.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
in the past, it used to be kind of micro learning, just kind of how do you create bite-sized pieces of content at the point of need before you go into a meeting, et cetera. How can you watch a quick video or get a
Yep.
quick, job aid, et cetera. And now with AI, there's a whole new kind of wave of tools and experiences that we can have all based on this idea of retrieval of knowledge. So essentially, just like, when you're going about your life, your daily life, and you want to look up something or you want to learn more about something, like it could be a new, interesting plant that you see outside, or it could be, you're trying to fix your washing machine or
Hmm.
whatever, trying to get a new concept. Many people now will turn to their AI companions to quickly understand what that is and kind of get more information. And you can, of course, get a multimodal experience. You could put in some pictures. You could even turn on the camera, which most people, I feel like
Yeah.
too few people take advantage of it to actually like
Yeah.
turn on the camera and voice chat with ChatGPT
Uh,
or others and get that information. So that's what I call learning in the flow of life today. We're
yeah. Yeah.
and we're seeing that translate, that expectation translating into the flow of work as well. And so people are saying, well, how can I get kind of a similar experience if I want to
Yeah.
learn, maybe more about co-pilot prompts or about leadership concepts and or like a policy document or something that I need historically I've had to remember a lot of these things, but now
Yeah.
I can actually have that knowledge at my fingertips. So that is kind of that reimagination of learning in the flow is something that is a really hot topic for our most innovative clients.
Yeah, yeah. That's super fascinating, and I've a couple hacks we're going to pick up there. The camera and chatting, at the same time, and learning it in the flow of life. So, let's double down on retrieval because you've written about this too in your articles in Training Magazine, which I commend to our audience to go check out Yulia's several articles in Training Magazine. But what I'd like to kind of zero in here a little bit is this performance support concept of retrieval versus what still requires structured learning and practice. And are there connection points for how AI can be used for practice as well? Maybe can you comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about kind of reworking how we learn and get knowledge and memorize, etc. There's this idea where we have clients really laying out their program content and thinking about, well, which elements of these can of these of these pieces can be condensed to a more retrieval type of
Yeah,
situation. So like for
yeah.
example, in a um, let's say a contact center situation, right? There's certain
Hmm.
policies or kind of just knowledge, or maybe even in like a pharmaceutical sales environment, right? There's just a
Yeah,
bunch of information that you
yeah,
have to
yeah,
memorize. But then there's also kind of that customer experience component, right? Like being able to to really talk to a human to human and be able
yeah,
to practice those skills that
yeah,
really the retrieval is just part of it, just knowing the knowledge itself, like what the policy says, et cetera, but being able to deliver that in a way that is very, kind of human to human, has a lot of EQ, et cetera, and builds that right customer experience is
yeah.
definitely a place to kind of keep that practice element going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And how do you see AI being used for clearly for the retrieval aspect we've talked about, but share with us what you're seeing on the practice element too. Like how are you seeing interesting applications for AI there?
Yeah, so I like to think of it as a spectrum. So,
Yeah.
kind of going from text to voice to kind of hybrid humanoid avatars to
Hmm.
realistic avatars, right? So there's a whole spectrum, and if you're practicing in a like a customer kind of a chat environment, like you don't need the avatar, right? That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
overkill. So like
Yeah.
it's really matching the modality to what's realistic with
Hmm.
the learner.
Yeah.
A lot of there's also like hybrid experiences where it's like you might have an icon of a person or like a little thumbnail of a person, but you're
Yeah.
conducting the experience through a voice chat. And
Yeah.
so you kind of you almost feel like you're on a Zoom or a Teams call, right? When you have the
Yeah.
little picture of a person. So you still like, get that kind of human to human experience or like a
Yeah.
simulated human experience, but it can still get you a lot of those practice reps, and it's
Hmm.
helping you helping teams scale that practice experience, that one-to-one experience that traditionally has been very heavily trainer focused. So this helps scale both trainers on kind of the mid-level to frontline side and scale human coaches on more of the leadership and board side as well.
Yeah.
Although with boards, it's a little tricky how to combine the human and the AI experience, but certainly even leadership development is programs are starting to think and incorporate experiments like this into their work.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you really simplified that to thinking about like what will the performance environment be and how do you match that level of fidelity of the modality to that performance environment. That makes a ton of sense. For people who are trying to sort through like, do I need voice? Do I need an avatar? That's a
Mhm.
nice frame. S-
Exactly. And one actually one to build on that even more, some of the avatar capabilities are now getting advanced to be able to have expressions. And so if they're listening to you, if you're saying something that they is not they don't like as a simulated customer, a simulated team member, they start to show that in their facial expressions. So you're kind of
right.
getting that that full experience that you wouldn't fully get in even a voice environment. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like to your point, like really taking advantage of if you do need that full experience, taking advantage of some of the technology shifts that have enabled these
Right.
advancements in the last like year or so.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, if AI is changing how people are learning and get supported at work, how does that translate to changing the L&D stack or how L&D operates? Both, I guess this we're talking about both like governance and roles as well as the technology stack.
Wow, that there could be a whole series on that, on unpacking that question. But what I will say is that as these types of experiences, particularly these learning companions or learning assistants that enable retrieval that I was
Yeah,
talking about, start to emerge and scale, it's really important for learning leaders to collaborate with their technology, IT,
yeah,
digital
yeah,
functions
yeah,
much more and much earlier than they would have in the past.
yeah,
So one of the advantages of me kind of working across AI and learning is that I get to be in rooms where learning is not necessarily there quite yet. So for
right.
example, like we do a lot of work with clients on just reimagining their workflows overall. So we'll
Yeah,
come into a client and say, hey, let's do some process mapping and for this industry or this function, et cetera. And this is typically done with business leaders and technology leaders, where business
hmm,
leaders will map out the process, and then technology leaders will kind of say, well, here's where agents can come in and reimagine
okay,
your process. And
okay,
so and of course the learning experience there's a big part in that too, and
yeah,
sometimes we'll see learning leaders in these types of engagements, but mostly to rework learning. But the opportunity, I think, is for learning to proactively come in and really entrench themselves into all of these processes, right? Because
hmm,
as you're changing the way that work gets done, the roles are changing, the job descriptions are changing, and
hmm,
learning needs to step in and kind of upskill people into new versions of their roles. And
yeah,
so learning is really what I like to say, kind of the engine of workforce reinvention in this era, because it's through learning that you'll be able to actually make those transformations happen and kind of like, shorten that delta between what people are doing today and what they need to be doing going forward. So, kind of getting involved in those early conversations, even if it's not about learning per se,
yeah.
but having them understand how those processes are being remapped is going to be critical for reshaping their future programs for that area.
Fascinating. Okay, this is so rich here, Yulia. Are you finding in these conversations that learning leaders are invited, are showing up in these conversations, or are they an an afterthought? What's the state of play right now? Because what you're saying is makes so much sense about why they need to be involved in these conversations. Are they? And what's your advice to learning leaders about how they get engaged?
Yeah, so the in terms of the first question, I will say that probably 95% of the time it's business leaders and it's
Yep.
technology leaders being part of this. Even workforce and talent leaders are sometimes not actively involved quite yet,
Yep.
unless it's
Yep.
like literally reimagining like a talent function or an HR function, something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But so learn what where we see learning kind of get called on is when leaders have this, or business leaders having this moment of, oh my gosh, this is going to be changing. We need upskilling. We need
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
upskilling.
Yeah.
But because learning is kind of coming in a little bit later. It's there's a lot of context to be kind of passed on, and they're not getting
Yeah.
the full kind of essence of what was discussed, et cetera. And so I think the key for learning leaders, and we've been saying this for years, right, is for learning leaders to become those trusted advisors to the
Yeah.
business leaders. But I think in this case, it's the technology leaders that is also just as important to be close with, because they're the ones who are going to be helping you understand how roles are changing. They're going to have that early look,
Yeah.
and they're going to help enable kind of these retrieval learning companions for you
Yeah.
as well, because that they're part of those knowledge management efforts, how the data is getting brought together. And so when we work on engagements like this, that's part of the first thing we do is get all those people
Yeah.
talking and getting them
Yeah.
aligned. And historically, they're not quite as close as they could be. So
It could be.
that
Okay.
proactive outreach, I would say, is absolutely kind of a no regret move for both the
Yeah.
technology side, workforce transformation side, business side. So it's like in the AI
Yeah.
world, it's kind of forcing human collaboration like never before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, arguably this is the biggest thing happening inside large enterprises right now is looking at workflows, trying to figure out where agentic moves can be made. And we're talking about for our audience of learning leaders, it's really the core value proposition for them. So if you're to coach a learning leader, they're all out there listening right now, what would you say to them to say, this is how you need to express your value to the business leader and the tech leader proactively, right? So they can say, "Oh, got it. Like we need you at the table." Like, what would your coaching to a learning leader be to for their pitch? Because this is really fundamental value they need to express to their colleagues.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we've been talking about this, for years, but technology is only as good as the people enabled to take advantage of it, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
with all of these AI agentic transformations, if you can't get people into that new version of their roles and that evolving version,
Yep.
then it's gonna fall flat. Like all of the
Yep.
investments that
Yep.
are that are being made are not going to be successful.
Yep.
There's that famous MIT study, right, of that only 5% or something of AI initiatives are successful. We
Yep.
believe that's a little extreme. There's a little bit of question about that study, but the
Yep.
essence is correct, that the majority of investments do not get their full traction, and it's the
Yep.
people side that is
Yep.
that is holding them back. It's kind of just understanding governance processes. It's understanding kind of how roles are shifting, like at every level. And
Yep.
the earlier that learning leaders can be a part of that, the easier it will be and the faster that transformation will happen.
Fantastic. And have had another guest on recently, and they referenced a study that 93% of spend inside enterprises related to AI is on the tech, and a paltry 7% is on enablement people. So to your point, great evidence out there to that point. Let's think about the tech under the learning leader's purview, which is different. Like we're talking about learning leaders supporting, tech transformation with AI and work transformation of workflows and so on. But when we talk about the tech that learning leaders can use for AI enabled learning, how should they think about decisions they make about deploying AI tutors, AI role plays, AI, et cetera, when the technology choices are changing quickly? What's your advice to them about making decisions on tech when tech is changing very rapidly?
Yeah, this is a question I get from all kinds of leaders, not just learning
Yeah,
leaders. I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah,
the landscape is moving so quickly. I actually recently made the analogy that it's like a being in a candy store, but the candy is always upgrading, right? Like you finally choose one and then like this one over here gets better and you're like,
yeah,
"Oh." So it is really challenging, but at the same time, kind of decision paralysis is also not the
yep,
answer. So
yep.
my recommendation would be to pick one, but make sure that you're not locked into a long-term contract.
Okay,
you
okay,
know
got it. Yeah,
Try to pilot something and try to get that muscle memory going with that one tool, but again, don't lock in, because if something else better comes around, that is something that you can start to experiment with as well. I would say that let's take a capability like working with avatar coaches, right? It almost doesn't matter which platform you use.
yeah,
It's all about, it's the same process, right? It's like you're building the framework that the coach will be using. You're
yeah,
building the data set, the knowledge set. You're testing, testing out the dashboard, testing out the feedback with participants, etc. So once you do it a couple of times with one platform, like you can actually, it's very transferable skills to another platform. We see the same thing with like building agents. If you build a custom GPT in ChatGPT, you can do the same thing in Gemini Gems or
sure.
in Copilot. It's probably 80 or 90% transferable skills. So I would say don't be so distracted by everything to not move quickly, because the market is moving so fast that you got to keep your skills sharp constantly.
Yes, amen to that. We just, Yulia just reminds me before we turned on the recording this session, we were talking about jumping across LLMs for our GPTs that support this podcast. So 100% experience that. Let's think about some parting wisdom for CLOs, for our learning leader audience tuning in. What's one move that they're not going to regret that they can and should make over the next 12 months or so to get learning more embedded in work, even as we see the technology changing like we've just discussed.
Absolutely. So I would say I'm very, very passionate about this. You have to get your teams upskilled. Now,
Mm,
we
mm,
talk about that all the time, but really try to help them push the bounds of what your existing tools can do,
yeah.
and don't just stop there. A lot of organizations I talk to say, well, gosh, we're constrained because there's not a lot of things are available, or some things have been shut down or blocked.
Hmm,
Same thing
hmm.
with Accenture, by the way. Like some of these tools that I'm talking about, like I actually learned in a personal way before it even came to Accenture. And that's
Uh-huh.
the key, is if you do have like restrictions, and everyone does to some degree in their organization, see how you can get the team curious and excited about trying these tools more in their, or even like the concept of these tools in their personal life, so that they're building that muscle memory and that
Yeah.
agility, to where when those tools do come available or some version of them, that they have that capability to pivot quickly and take
Yeah.
advantage very, very fast. We at Accenture, we just got Claude recently enabled, but a lot of us were working with it, in our personal lives, so that it was a
Yeah.
very seamless transition when it came to our organization. So definitely, I would say get your team upskilled and just do it both personally, professionally, and keep going because that's really the one no regret move personally that we can do, and no one can take away the skills that we personally build for ourselves.
Love it. Love it. Well, that is a great place to land the plane, Yulia. Thank you so much for sharing your practical wisdom, and thanks for inspiring us out there with your talks and your writing and your curiosity, to learn. It's inspiring. So if our listeners, want to learn more about what you do, I guess I've already told them that go to trainingmagazine.com and they read your articles. But if they want to follow you and your work, how best should they stay connected with you?
I think my LinkedIn is probably the easiest. Just
Okay.
search me on LinkedIn. I try to do semi-regular posting. I used to have a YouTube channel, but I fell off the boat. So, well, maybe one day, especially with AI acceleration, we'll get back on the boat. But yeah, LinkedIn is kind of my go-to, and I'm always learning and trying to share what I learned there as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, for our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, I have a specific ask for you. Please find at least one person to share it with. That's how we get the word out. And follow us, of course. Follow Being Intrepid on all your platforms, Apple, Spotify, and so on. And leave a rating. Leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. So taking one or more of these steps helps us be found, and we deeply appreciate it. And that's a wrap. So until next time, stay curious, chart your own course, and keep on learning. Thanks, Yulia.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.